So I'm not David Gower. My name is Ian Parkinson, Executive Vice President, Corporate Development and Capital Markets with Emerita Resources. Hope everybody is enjoying the conference. We'll be making some forward-looking statements. The full disclosures on our website. Please read at your leisure. So Emerita Resources, we're about a $90 million market cap company, well cashed up. We just raised $11 million in the last couple of weeks. 40-cent share price approximately. Been around for a number of years. But what Emerita is all about is the Iberian Pyrite Belt in southern Spain. We've got a series of projects at various stages of development. Our main focus for the last year to 18 months has been on the Iberian Belt West project. We just published our maiden resource on that, 14 million tons in the indicated category, 4 million tons in inferred. Combined zinc equivalent is in the neighborhood of 8.2, 8.3%. That is post recoveries. I'll get into some of the details of that resource later. We're well served by local infrastructure. Our target geology or VMS deposits, you heard Kelly mention those in the previous conversation. This terrain, this area has been mined for thousands of years. The Romans conquered this area 2,000 years ago, and it was already being mined at that time. We've seen various phases of mineral exploitation since then. We're very close to Lundin's Neves-Corvo mine. That's just across the Portuguese border from where our IBW project is. Sandfire's Aguas Teñidas is in the general area. That was the subject of a $1.8 billion takeover in the last, say, 24 months. The world famous Rio Tinto mine is adjacent to one of our property packages. So we're very well served by infrastructure. It's a very mining friendly jurisdiction. And again, it's a prolific terrain for us to make additional discoveries. Got some great support from local communities. Even though David and I are based in Toronto, most of our technical staff is based in Seville. And we have an earlier stage prospect called Nuevo Tenteo, which we'll get into shortly. So again, like I said, a historic mining district, but it's got modern infrastructure. We're well served by roads, power, down to the bottom of this map, those green dots there. That's the Port of Hueva. There's a smelter there. It's a copper smelter, but again, it's the right industry. Deep water port, access to global markets. This area in southern Spain, as you are likely aware, it's sunny and windy all the time. Great for renewable power generation. About 60% of the power generated in this area does come from renewable sources, and that stat continues to grow. There is hydroelectric power as well. And again, with so many active mines near us, we've got access to a great trained workforce and a very easy access from the town of Seville. Seville is just to the bottom right of that slide. It's about an hour and a half to an hour 45-minute drive from Seville to the IBW project in the west of our property package. So again, we're surrounded by majors, mid-tiers, but we have a very large land package that continues to grow. Our first project to focus is the Iberian Belt West project. IBW for short is comprised of 3 historic targets. We got the project through a public tender process several years ago. Within the project area, there was a historic resource at La Romanera, which was drilled up by Rio Tinto in the mid-1980s, and a historic resource at Lanfonta. So when we were finally granted permits in June, July of last year, we set to work immediately confirming those historic resources. They were non-43-101 compliant. We didn't have access to core, but we knew they were there. So from June, July of last year up until very recently, we've drilled about 74,000 meters, I think, to date. We published our maiden resource just a few weeks ago, but the drills continue to turn. During peak drilling at IBW, we had 15 drills turning. We're now down to about 6. We're continuing to do more work around Romanera and Elkura. So Elkura is the one area that we haven't drilled. There was no historic resource there. That's an area of focus for us, say, over the next 3 to 6 months, just to see what we have and what potential Elkura has. This operation, if you're thinking down the road as to what an operation would look like, it will be mined likely together, Romanera and Lanfonta, feeding one centralized processing facility. They're only about 7 kilometers apart, so great opportunity to share infrastructure. the local community is very supportive. It's an area called Pueblo de Guzman. A lot of our workforce is housed in that immediate area, and we're spending money with the local community. So again, great local support from the communities. This is our maiden resource, or the output of our maiden resource. One footnote, and it's an area of focus for us in the very near term. The QP that did this work for us was Wardell Armstrong. Wardell is essentially the box when it comes to technical work in the Pyrite Belt. They've done a lot of work for Lundin historically. They were only comfortable giving us 20% gold recoveries. So the zinc equivalent grade there is net of their recovery assumptions. We're a bit of a unique situation in the Pyrite Belt. There's not many deposits that have gold grades to the level that we have. So without having done comprehensive metallurgy, they were not in a position where they could give us credit for the gold. So what we've kicked off in the last couple of weeks since this table was published is a comprehensive metallurgical program. We brought in 2 leading experts. We brought in SRK to advise us. We're a bunch of exploration geologists. We needed some metallurgical help. So SRK is going to be protecting our metallurgical best interest going forward, while Wardell Armstrong does a comprehensive metallurgical study work for us. So we're hopeful in early fall, mid-fall, we'll be able to answer that question as to what would be an expected gold recovery, silver recovery, et cetera, as we continue to build on the resource. The resource was done at a 3% zinc equivalent cutoff, similar cutoff grade that Lundin has used in Neves-Corvo just a few kilometers away. The deposit holds together very, very well. Basically, what this image is showing you, the difference between indicated and inferred was simply drill density. The deposit is quite continuous. The core of the deposit was better drilled, so that was able to get boosted up into the indicated category, and then the rest is inferred. So how do we stand up versus our peer group? Again, our gold or our metallurgical recovery, I think that study work is going to influence these numbers. But even without that hopeful positive results, our grade is in the same ballpark as a lot of the operating mines in the area or similar deposits that are being built globally. So again, I can't add both those numbers together because one's indicated, one's inferred. But if you see where they line up versus Sandfire, First Quantum, Lundin to the left is a bit unique because they only report in situ grade. They don't report post recovery for that new project. But again, we've got the grade to make this a mine. What we need is more tons. We basically need, to summarize this, we need those gray bars to be higher. And how we're doing that is we're continuing to drill. So the deposit remains open at depth. The images in front of you are basically 2 stacked lenses. The deposit basically daylights. The Romans mined the Gaussian cap of this deposit several thousand years ago. They left the rest to us. We're continuing to pull the center of gravity deeper and deeper in the deposit. We're targeting the areas that say open on the slide in front of you. We just put out 2 drill holes this morning. Again, the deposit is wide open at depth. We're seeing some of our best thicknesses and best grades in our most recent drilling. So we're hopeful over the course of time, we're going to be able to better understand the metallurgy through the test work that we're doing as we continue to make the deposit bigger by continuing the exploration. The deposit is open along strike, but we think the greatest potential remains at depth. So that's what we're targeting. We're doing downhole geophysics on all the holes. We're seeing conductors that are very encouraging. So we're going to be continuing to drill Romanera for the foreseeable future. And like I said, we've got 6 drills turning now, down from 15 earlier in the year. Lanfonta, which is a satellite deposit, still part of the greater IBW project. A little bit different than the mineralization at Romanera, much less pyrite in this area, much higher grade, but it's a thinner lens. Average thicknesses in this area are 3 to 5 meters, but there's parts of this deposit that are well over 20% zinc equivalent. So very, very high grade rock. Unfortunately, not quite enough of it, but we'll see what we can find through the drill bit. But again, this will be mined in concert with the Romanera, likely blended in some form of operating scenario. But again, it remains open at depth. This is a little bit lower priority for us right now than Romanera, but again, we'll be continuing to push this forward as the year progresses. Our next project is Nuevo Tenteo. So we've moved a little bit farther east in the Iberian Pyrite Belt. I can't believe I'm actually saying this as an explorationist, but we've got a massive land package sandwiched between the world famous Rio Tinto mine and Cobre Las Cruces. About 7,500 hectares that's under exploration license currently. It's never seen modern day exploration. And if this land package existed in the Abitibi, it would be peppered with drill holes. Can't really explain why it hasn't seen modern exploration. It's the same stratigraphic horizon that hosts the Rio Tinto mine, same package of rocks. It's got 3 past producing mines on the project area. The most important mine or area for us is the area to the west. There's Mineral Nazalat in this area, and according to the archives, they were producing anywhere between 6 and 8% copper, and likely directly shipping that to Rio Tinto for processing. Our path forward for this is to drill it later in the year. We were hopeful to get into this area earlier, but this part of Spain is seeing some very, very hot and dry conditions. There's a fire risk in the area, so we're going to wait until the temperatures cool off a little bit and there's more moisture in the air and get into this area probably September timeframe, maybe October. Incredibly well serviced, obviously with Rio Tinto being just off the property package, great access to roads, trained workforce as well. There's actually a power line that transits a property with another access to the north. So we'll be putting our shoulder into this part of our story in the coming months, and very excited to see what Nuevo Tenteo has to offer. It's full ground mag and airborne geophysics. No surprise, it's lighting up like a Christmas tree around the past operating mines. These mines are very, very small scale. They only went down 100, 150 meters, likely to the water table. Some were from a German era of investment in this area, and then some British influence later in the period. But again, nothing modern, no modern day exploration. So we need to get to work basically as soon as we can. Having the benefit of a team that's based in Seville, we had the opportunity to actually grab more land in this hopefully very prospective area for almost no cost. So just a few months ago, we grabbed another 7,500 hectares for, I think it was 12,500 euros is what we paid for the land grant. So we're hopeful that Nuevo Tenteo, which is the area in red, that's under exploration license. The blue is under application, but we're hopeful this almost 15,000 total hectares will be an avenue for future discovery for the company. Our third project, which we don't own, it's pending, I guess is the best way to describe this. The Emerita project is part of a legal battle that's ongoing in Spain. The case is going to be heard by the Supreme Court in March of 2025. We lost a tender process several years ago to a group, and effectively the awarding of the asset to the winning group was maybe not the most legitimate awarding process. So it's been challenged in the courts. Our application was received, it was valid. So if the winning bid is canceled and nullified, the asset would flow to us. It's a past operating open pit mine. It was operated by Lundin up until about 20 years ago. There was a tailings dam failure, or tailings process failure. Lundin exited the country. The asset reverted back to Spain. The local community about 8 years ago, petitioned the federal government to get this asset back into production simply for the jobs. This area, lots of unemployment in the area, so they wanted the mine back in production. So needless to say, we got lots of local support to get this up and running if and when we do get awarded the asset. So Los Frailes, massive resource, very high grade. There's a 20 million ton high grade core that we're focused on, well north of 10% zinc equivalent. It was operated as an open pit mine. We have no intention of reopening the open pit. We'd like to go underground if we're given the opportunity. Our vision for the asset would be to mine it as a ramp access underground mine, targeting the 3 high grade lenses that are on the property package. It's quite thick. It's a little bit shallower dipping than other parts of the Iberian Belt, but again, great thicknesses, great grade. This asset, in one geologist's opinion, should have always been an underground mine. It should never have been operated as an open pit. So again, if we're given the opportunity, and we'd like to bring this back into production when the court case is settled. Again, what this slide is showing you is the open pit, which is probably hard to see. The bottom of the open pit is right there. So the past operators had really only just started to get into the deposit. The thickest, highest grade part of the deposit is here. So that's where we'd be targeting in an early payback scenario if we're given the chance to operate it. So operating in the European Union, their view of mining is evolving. I think with the ongoing crisis in Ukraine and Russia, and then post-COVID with supply chain shortages, they've really become conscious of their critical commodity supply chain. So there's initiatives happening within the EU to streamline and to incentivize supply of critical commodities from domestic EU sources. And within the EU, the geology of the EU is not really conducive to prolific base metal exploration and development other than the Iberian Pyrite Belt where we operate, and the Tethyan Belt, which is off in Eastern Europe. So we're hopeful as this initiative works its way through various levels of parliament and government, that when we are ready and we're de-risked enough, we can access potentially some cheaper capital and have a streamlined permitting regime that will enable us to move IBW, Nuevo Tenteo, or Asnocoyar forward. Again, local government is very supportive. With a long history of mining, the way I compare Andalusia and the Iberian Pyrite Belt is very similar to Sudbury, Rouen, Timmins. It's a local community that lives symbiotically with mining operations. They're very comfortable with the industry. We've got a local community. We've got a local team based in Seville. They're very active in the local community. We sponsor a local soccer team, a local cycling team. So Emerita is quite visible. It's not like we're a helicopter company or briefcase company moving in from Toronto and only showing up, a couple times a year. We've got a real local presence, which is serving us well. So near-term catalyst for us and how we're going to drive this story forward. Again, IBW, La Romanera, and Lanfonta are going to be focuses of drilling. We need to find out what's happening at Elkura. Again, we should know that in the near future. So continue to grow the resource, making IBW bigger and better. The metallurgical question needs to be answered, and we're working on that. That's a 3 to 4 month project. So like I said, hopefully sometime in early to mid fall, we'll have an answer as to what the flow sheet and what the recoveries may look like, because that is a key de-risking event as far as we're concerned. And we need to get to work at Nuevo Tenteo. It's a property package that is too exciting to ignore. Again, as an explorationist, I'm chomping at the bit to get going at Nuevo Tenteo. And that's it. That's the Emerita story. Any questions? Okay, thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of the conference.